change management and bringing frontline workers along on the journey and giving them a why, it's more important than the technology itself.
So what have you found to be the most effective way to incorporating robotics into their workday?
It starts with that base foundational layer of,
wow, who knows what's going to be possible for robotics in 18 months? David Pinn, CEO and CFO over at Corp, the company behind the world's largest fleet of autonomous mobile robots. How in the world did you get into leading a robot-focused company?
I found myself in this role through taking the choice that had a steeper learning curve. You raise it one penny at a time, my friend. I did not show up one day and someone wrote me a $190 million check.
No one wants to hear that.
Exactly right.
What's one of the most unexpected places that you've seen a robot be successful?
So we have a robot operating at NASA.
What's it doing, if you can disclose that?
Wow.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Lead the Team. Meet David Pinn, CEO and CFO over at Corp, the company behind the world's largest fleet of autonomous mobile robots. He has helped transform both the retail and logistics industries through AI and automation, from leading a dramatic shift from hardware to SaaS to forging game-changing partnerships with giants like Walmart and Sam's Club. His story is one that every innovator needs to hear. David, welcome to Lead the Team, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, Ben.
When's a moment you steered your team or company in a completely different direction? And what was that like for you as a leader?
When I took over as CEO, the first thing I did really was to take a close look at our employee engagement survey. They tell us how they feel things are going in the company. And something that I noticed was that there was an opportunity for me to help lead the team toward more collaboration, toward more communication, really in two different directions. One, from the executive team to the employees, and in the opposite direction, from the employees back up to the executive team. And so I implemented a quarterly planning process that we've been running for the last 3 years here at Corp. And it's really an opportunity for the executive team to share with all of the employees at Corp what are our goals for the next quarter and for the next year on a rolling basis, and for the rank and file employees to take requests from the executive team, a sense of the direction that we want to head, and use those requests to build up from the ground up plans that they're going to execute over the next quarter to achieve those goals and those requests.
And what's been the result?
The result has been very, very positive from a culture perspective. On the execution side, it's really about ensuring that we're able to stay nimble. To your point, you don't want to calcify with process. And so having this quarterly planning that takes place on a rolling quarterly basis really allows us to find that right balance between being intentional, but also being nimble and being able to change with the market. AI and robotics is changing all the time, and we have to make sure that our plans reflect the latest technology advancements and ensure that we're helping our customers stay on the cutting edge with all this new technology.
What are some of the ways or the traits or the skills that have helped you stay at the vanguard of technology through all these changes?
One of the foundational traits is about staying curious. And that means asking questions. It means acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. It's a thirst for knowledge. It's a curiosity to understand, to your point, like what is going to happen next, seeking out different people's opinions. We cannot treat ourselves as experts, right? Like that is death knell, I would say, for a technology company and for an executive or an employee of a technology company, because it closes you off to new ideas and new ways of doing things.
When's the time that you're able to pull from a different industry and it helped you innovate?
Big part of what we do in our company, right, is we're bridging the gap between, you mentioned ChatGPT, right? So those large language models, as well as the retail industry, right? And so we have to take lessons from both of those industries, just understanding the depth of the complexity of that industry and gaining an appreciation for how something which to you and me as consumers, it seems very simple, right? There's a can of beans on the shelf and I pick it up and I check out. How hard can it be? And you realize, no, it's really hard to make sure that that right can is at the right spot, at the right time, at the right price. There's just so much complexity that goes into that.
What does the future look like?
Today we detect issues on the shelves that need to be corrected. And in the future, the robot itself will correct those issues, right? So to your point, rather than, today we can point out an out of stock, tomorrow we can address the out of stock and actually restock that item on the shelf. And so solving more and more of these really kind of detail oriented, unpleasant jobs in the store to unburden the store employees.
People might hear robots and think, well, they just want robots so they can reduce their workforce and do it more cheaply. How are you navigating that conversation right now?
Customers of BrainCorp think about it in the way that I'm describing, which is it's an opportunity to reallocate from undifferentiated labor to differentiated labor, right? If I can move labor hours from something that's mundane to something that really grows my brand, they're going to back up the truck and do that all day long.
BrainCorp, you guys have the operating system across this, but you're also working with organizations to provide the physical robots that have to do the work. So could you share a challenge that you guys have faced in that and how you overcame that?
At the beginning, it was all about, hey, we're going to make an amazing robot. We're going to go lob it at customers on 5 continents, and they're just going to turn it on and hit the button and do the automation.
Yeah.
It turns out that change management in some ways is even more important than all the technology that I just talked about. Where the rubber hits the road with this technology, it's in a grocery store, it's in a warehouse, it's in a hotel or a hospital. It's frontline workers that are interacting with the technology. It's really important to give them a why, to give them training, to give them motivation, to help them through the change management of how their job is going to evolve with the robot. Just picture a large national grocer. These large organizations, they're broken down into regions and then further broken down into districts. And so you can run little contests, for example, within a district of a dozen stores. The contest is who's going to run their robot for the most hours in the week. And you can have a little leaderboard that shows up on the robot and everyone gets really excited about embracing the technology. And so it's giving people that kind of recognition for going on that change journey with us because, part of human nature is, of course, to resist change.
What advice would you give your younger self today?
Taking the harder choice, taking the choice that had a steeper learning curve. And so, look, if I went back to my younger self, I would tell myself to double down on that, lean in on the opportunities that feel like they're going to be a real struggle, because I think that's where I had the acceleration in my career. It's my first time being a CEO. It's an extremely dynamic industry. Also, for me, having come from the engineering side and then the finance side, I didn't have exposure to a lot of other sides of the business, right? Operations is new to me, HR, there's all other elements of the business that I'd never touched before. And so having an exposure, at least a little taste of the challenges in these other disciplines has been extremely rewarding.
I learned that you helped unlock $190 million for the organization. What was that like?
You raise it one penny at a time, my friend, right? I mean, it's
no one wants to hear that.
Yeah, no, I did not show up one day and someone wrote me a $190 million check. That's not what happened. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of hard work. Most investors aren't going to like most stories. And so you've got to make your pitch dozens and dozens and dozens of times in order to raise that capital. And, for me, really, it's just all about finding that match, right?
What's one of the most unexpected or most memorable places that you've seen a robot be successful?
So we have a robot operating at NASA, and that's pretty cool.
What's it doing, if you can disclose that? Is it?
So that's a floor cleaning robot. Dust, I think, is very damaging for rocketry, for satellites and things of that nature. And so it's a very critical job for our robot to make sure that the floors are squeaky clean.
David, it has been a fun one today, sir. Thanks for coming on and lead the team.
Thank you for having me, Ben.